It would seem that the whole world right now is in a state of chaos. We have war in Ukraine, a global pandemic, ambulances ramping, and overburdened health systems, an aged care crisis unfolding across the globe, and greater social care dilemma. Inflation is rising and housing becoming so out of reach for so many. There is now a lack of housing, not just in the rental market, but in the disability and vulnerable spheres also. We used to have some 66,000 homes for those in need on the social care housing trust model, and now, despite growing populations, we have half that number. There are no more resources left for government to draw from, and a shrinking pot of money to draw from. Yet, at the same time, the term wellness is resonating in conversations, tweets, and in the public psyche across the global population, from academia to corporate to government, and in people's homes. Millions in the Great Resignation seek new lives, different lives, better lives. Questions are being asked, such as, will we work for a full-day week? Will that appease the masses? Or is it all about being happy at work and in life? Will innovation and technology be our key here, driving different jobs for our future? Does the climate change provide for the greatest opportunity for humanity since the discovery of fire? I mean, beyond any revolution or industrial revolution before, this fifth revolution could be the human revolution that has taken millennia to arrive at. The answer to the biggest question of all time. Is this really all there is for me in life? How in the hell can we afford to look after so many broken or disabled or elderly? Why am I working 3 jobs and never seeing daylight? Or my children and have no sick leave, no holidays, no training, just stuck in a never-ending loop of fodder and deprivation. Why is everyone on shift work? During the pandemic, as I watched empty cities, empty due to lockdowns across the world, the images that stuck most in my mind were ones like that curious kangaroo hopping down the main drag in my hometown Adelaide. The wildlife certainly enjoyed our absence. And it does beg the question, was the creature just a scout sent to see if all the people had buggered off yet? With issues like global warming facing us, we believe that we can't change the world, that we are stuck for eternity with what we have. Perhaps the pandemic was the visionary entity that enabled us to see for ourselves change is possible. It at least may have served as a proverbial kick up the arse that many of us needed. It certainly has placed many in the situation that change is something they are no longer happy to negotiate. Why should I spend a life at a job I despise? Why can't we have a better work-life balance? Why can't we integrate civilization with the environment? I mean, do we really have to concrete everything? What if the people just didn't go back to work? This human revolution, this fifth revolution, will be green technology based. And certainly who wouldn't want to go back in time and become a family name for who discovered and owned oil or owned a massive coal mine? To be so short-sighted that our entrepreneurs and politicians lose sight of this opportunity will be a sorely missed opportunity for many. We owe our modern civilization to coal, absolutely. But will fossil fuel really get us? And I mean literally off the surface of the planet and out of our confines of our bit of space and into beyond? No way the Starship Enterprise could ever be steam-powered, for sure. I mean, I hear you coal-loving politicians loyal to the last. Fantastic. But do you really want to be the Wally holding the stone, shouting fiercely how wonderful the Stone Age is whilst progress strolled on? Was it the ones with the ancient or the most progressive technologies that ruled the world? Don't need to look that one up, folks. Coal is great stuff. We owe a great deal to it. But if I had the opportunity to be the Rockefeller of the green technology gang, we'll say la vie, Cole and tata. This is an exciting opportunity for the human race to evolve beyond the confines of the human struggle and surviving and into the kind of transcendental, illuminatory self-actualization that not even Abraham Maslow could have aspired to. Finally, civilization is at a point we can look at taking care of and moving away from the myth of scarcity and the myth of survival of the fittest. We can dematerialise GDP and actually, without feeling like a real hippie or even knowing the words to John Lennon's Imagine, aspire to things like equality, a right to a life, and social care models that reach beyond providing a minimum alone. From ethical investing, we move to a fifth revolution suite of ideals that will be truly egalitarian. Our financial system globally is failing. Our governments push around the same issues much like a child does an unwanted piece of broccoli on a dinner plate. These issues are as old as we are, and I don't believe that up until this age we had the ability to really do anything about them. For a long time, in one lane we had progress, and in the other lane we had the cost of progress. Our financial systems aren't essential to our survival. They weren't handed to us by God. These systems were designed by us, just as poverty is a consequence of those systems was. A human invention and not a mandatory condition of human suffering and the human condition. Even though many, including government, know that climate change is real, in our current parameters, we simply can't afford to do anything to stop it. I mean, we can't just stop growth, stop the wheels of the world. We can't afford to do that. And honestly, I don't think most governments would even know how. But as the floods and the fires have proven, they don't even have the means or the ability to serve us in the aftermaths of these events. If they do anything productive at all, it will be calculating the risk to governments in the future, and very near future, that is, of repeats of natural disasters. I believe it is the greatest threat to our political systems, regardless of if they are democratic or otherwise, and wherever they are in the world. They may not know it yet, but a few more curveballs thrown at them by Mother Nature, and they'll get with the picture pretty damn fast. You see, cooperation, community, and compassion will become our greatest resource again, our essentials, the people. We have been moving towards the next revolution, the human revolution, for a long time. We just didn't know how to get there. I mean, when anyone says things like feed the world, save the world, you've got to be a hippie, right? Yet, here we are. The pandemic showed us we can just stop the world, or at least our bit of it. And so now we need to think beyond the traditional ethical investments into human investments and those that will become a part of this fifth revolution. Though green technology and technology will laud, and technology has lauded our past revolutions, this next revolution will not solely be technological. Of course, when comparing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as discussed in other podcasts, you can see a correlation between technological advancement and our hierarchy of needs. Human capital, essential worker. How far does the world and the cities get without people? Not very. We are the greatest commodity, be it as a consumer or as a worker, an investor, or mum or dad. We are the greatest asset that society has. The pandemic helped us remember that. Here comes a very human revolution, not one of strikes and resistance and revolution in that sense, but one for humanity, purpose and inclusion, a global cultural revolution, wellness in the workplace, work-life balance, Focus on equality, on social care, for instance, that is humane, not based on the lowest costs with the highest gains, but based on outcomes of care. Are the people happy? Are they living their best life? Now I'm asking just imagine if that was our government's KPI, not just to toe the party line, but to truly serve humanity beyond their own agendas and parties. Imagine that. I've certainly seen a few contenders for this new breed of politician. My passion is to create a legacy and change of focus as to how we measure care in society, from the measurements and standards of the day-to-day care to measuring the quality of the life lived as a key performance indicator and quality benchmark. A great life lived for our most vulnerable can mean a better life for us all. I don't believe we as a society, as harsh as it sounds, could have stomached our most vulnerable living too well until everyone else was. But as the human revolution wave moves across societies and changes the way we live and work and the quality of lives, then that wave will wash over everyone in society. We weren't in a position technologically to be able to feed and look after everyone. New technologies will create different kinds of jobs and place values on different assets in society. And as such, I believe that physical disabilities will be less of a stigma, as the contribution of other assets and abilities in new kinds of roles in a modern society will enable us to value what was previously the valueless. A sustainable care model will be an economically viable, environmentally sustainable, and economically self-sufficient model. Beyond being a nice little ethical investment, it is a sustainable investment that funds itself beyond the traditional government coffers. A model that can define itself at the same time by a whole new set of KPIs. How well did they live? Did they live their best lives? A sustainable ethical investment that is a moral victory without the expected financial loss associated with human social care enterprises, be it loss of money or loss of life from the cutting of corners. Excellence in care does not have to come at a loss. Yet the NDIS model of care is a somewhat dodgy, precarious business model when pinned against the grand aspirations the NDIS and many providers also tend to tout as their mission statements and goals. Had they no golden goose or a secret money printer, one can only think such grand goals as purely imaginary concepts and bullshit to keep the punters happy. Sounds better than we will do the minimum to cost the least while keeping you alive and sort of living without going bankrupt. Less of a catchy mission statement, but the kind that most investors would and do flock to, unless they are a part of ethical investing and are measuring different outcomes as goals. Care costs too much, even importing unskilled migrants and exploiting them, and hyper-casualisation of the workforce, and the abuse of government employment, grants and doing as little as possible and cutting so many corners, the square is really round. Many can't make a profit. The expectation has been that our most vulnerable must accept good enough, or not at bloody all. Wellness, self-actualisation, patient-focused care, autonomy of the individual is all the vernacular of the coming social and cultural human revolution. Just like you'd want to be Rockefeller in the past, you want to be riding the wave in this next cycle. Also from this new term, essential worker, we all took to heart the words essential and worker. The numbers stuck at home who weren't essential must have felt their lives such a folly that a shelf stacker or a bum wiper was essential. From there, our new great meaning going forward is, how do I be essential? What's important to me? My job that didn't even notice I was gone, or my family or friends that couldn't live without me? Gosh, I think my dog is more important. The pandemic and the global climate issue have been the catalyst for change. The world is changing. Our next generation's values will be reflected when we inspire our own children's lives, we will inspire them not to seek hollow pursuits, but to live well and be happy, and to live the best life that they can. Our focus will be on the outcomes and the humanity and compassion. Social care models will ensure real employment for our vulnerable, not basket weaving and exploitation sponsored by government. Value of life, not lip service to values. The re-emergence of compassionate communities where people know their neighbours, like in not so many generations ago, when women helped birth each other's children, fed each other's kids, nursed each other's frail, and their resilience was not in subscription to a nanny state, but in the safety, continuity, compassion, and solidarity in our communities. People have always been essential. Social care can be compassionate and can be about community. People are always essential to each other. Communities can work together with joint enterprise to protect them from a mercurial government with seasonally capricious values and an over-shrinking pot. Next generation social care providers can be environmentally friendly, environmentally sustainable, and financially sustainable, and financially self-sufficient. There will be essential attributes going forward. Not only must a contemporary provider be able to be profitable, but will have to be palatable to a much more aware community and must be able to protect itself from the tumultuous roller coaster in Australia that is the NDIS. Financial risk management will mean diversity and risk protection. The current model providing care into the community isn't tenable, and left unchecked will result in significant deaths and the re-emergence of the institutional system. So many are shoved in hospitals or nursing homes, which as a reality are the only safe places for them. Viable alternatives need to arise, alternatives that allow for dedication to values and autonomy and the person without compromising care, quality, and allowing for all people to feel essential. Out of that great need, those that see the need for change in how providers of such services operate will fare better than those that choose to ignore the realities of the situation. Not only will they succeed where many will fail, but they will succeed not in spite of quality of care, but because of it. They will be the leaders of the social care models of the human revolution. Thank you for listening, and if you've enjoyed this, please look for more on carersandadvocates.com.